onto the Beaks being paid as well.
And then Coleman gets roped in, so he probably knows a lot.
Yeah.
So they piece it together, going, okay, we're going to get this Beaks guy, we're going to switch briefcases, we're going to take all our money that we can all pool together, and then we're going to do it.
Yeah, we're going to basically do what they were doing.
And sink them in the process.
Yes.
So we get to a New Year's Eve party on a train.
Yes.
James Belushi, as he's credited in this film, is one of the party goers. He plays a role later on. He's dressed as a gorilla. I do like when the credits were like, James Belushi.
No.
Was he always credited as James and never Jim?
For a long, long time. I think he's Jim now, but...
For a long time,
for
James Belushi.
The entire time I knew of him, he was James.
Fair enough. So they get disguises. Okay. So first, Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
I think he's from Cameroon. He does these chanting things. What did he say? Instead of Happy New Year, he said Merry New Year or something?
I think he said Merry New Year. Something along those lines, and Beaks immediately frustrated was like, we say Happy New Year here. Because, Paul Gleason is a dick.
I think he is incapable of being a good guy in a film. And whenever he is, it's probably uncomfortable to watch.
Challenge accepted. I will try to find one where he's not an asshole.
Because that was his lot in life, and he was damn good at it. Next comes Coleman, who's playing an Irish priest.
Yes.
With a flask of whiskey.
Yes.
I guess, again, the 80s.
Well, no, that's just a stereotype. Yeah. I don't know if that's a...
Well, all Irishmen are drunken whiskey drunkards.
Every Irishman I ever met.
Fair enough. Hey, I'm part Irish.
I'm part Irish myself,
I love me some whiskey.
I drink a lot of whiskey, so
I guess there's
there's something there.
She, Ophelia comes in as Inga from Sweden.
Yep.
But he's like, but you're wearing lederhosen.
I'm Inga from Sweden.
Gleason doesn't give a fuck. Beaks doesn't give a fuck because it's Jamie Lee Curtis in her 20s in a tight outfit. So he doesn't care what country she's from.
Life is good.
Because she gets up close to him. She knows what she's doing. Yeah. He's like, whatever. Just, you can sit right here.
But ironically, she was supposed to have an Australian accent, but on the day, Jamie Lee Curtis could not do it. She couldn't do the accent.
Which is funny, because one of the first movies she ever did was filmed in Australia.
Yeah, but she didn't. I don't think she had to do the accent.
No. Well, no, because she played... It was her and... I want to say Stacey Keach. Two Americans in Australia.
I believe you are correct.
That's not the name of the movie. I forget the name of the movie, but it was based on.
I remember now. Yeah.
So they get the briefcase. They all her boobs are distracting Beaks, so they switch the briefcases. Eddie Murphy goes to he knocks on the door. Lewis knocks back. Knocks on the door. Who is it?
Open the damn door.
They switch the briefcase.
So they get the
information. You don't see Lewis.
Well, no. Well, what it is they get the information, right? Because they basically all this information is whether the
crop report,
whether it's going to be a good year or a bad year for oranges, and they're basically going to you do this based on the way it's going to work. So if it's a good crop, you do it one way. If it's a bad crop, you do it another way. So they get the information. And then they give him back the original briefcase, and Gleason catches them doing it when he comes back.
Because for unnecessary, by the way, this fourth disguise that Lewis is wearing, where he's in blackface.
Yeah.
And you're like, because it's one of those movies you haven't seen in a while, and then you remember, oh yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen this in 20 years, and I remembered this scene. It never even occurred to me that he was in blackface. I didn't remember at all. It just never occurred to me, so...
Eddie Murphy's right there, so...
he seems cool with it. There's no, there's no backlash for it. I'm not hearing anyone going,
it's Soul Man when you think about...
And it's...
Because that's the whole premise of the film. Yeah. This is just a shitty scene.
It really is, yeah.
So, whatever. They all get discovered. That scene does not age well.
No.
Please don't ever do that again, Hollywood. Well, now they won't.
No. They did, once again.
They did once again, but they won't anymore.
Somehow got away with it.
He was nominated for an Oscar for that, too, which is weird.
I've still never figured that out.
So he catches them, goes, okay, all four of you, which is weird, because I get he has a gun.
Yeah.
There's still four of them.
Yeah, you would think,
one can't, can't feel go, hey, what, punch him in the face, but...
You would think, hey, look, I have boobs.
Remember? Inga from Sweden.
Yeah, just whip them out. he's going to be distracted.
I've
Let's
seen
face
films
it.
where that was the plan.
Yeah.
And it works.
And it works. It will work every single time.
So he pulls him to a back car, through a party, by the way, with a gun. I get it.
They
80s,
seem to think it was cool.
Yeah. James, dressed as a gorilla, follows them.
Yes.
There's a gorilla already on board.
Who
we see in an earlier scene with, I think it was Al Franken and somebody else was playing the...
This is another scene that could have played out very differently and would have been so much better. These two guys were brought in at the last minute because the original actors who were supposed to play it, Rick Moranis and Dave Thomas, who were going to play it as Bob and Doug McKenzie, had to drop out.
So they would have played it with the accents?
Yep. If you listen to the way that if you look at the way these two acts, you can easily see Bob and Doug doing it.
Yeah.
Easily. Because, literally, the first scene you see is him tapping going, hey, it's my turn to drive. So you literally just throw an A at the end of it. It's like, my turn to drive, eh? No way, take off. It's my turn. Like,
that would have been a joke for, 5 people in the audience.
I would have loved every second of it.
Oh, yes, glorious.
Wait until we talk about that movie.
Yes, sir.
Oh, the amount of heaping praise of that movie will be
So
insane.
he follows them in dressed as a gorilla. There's already a gorilla in the car with them, which Beeks doesn't seem to mind, because he's standing right in front of the gorilla with a gun. Not
that
going
dumb.
oh, there's a dangerous animal behind you.
Yeah, and they've somehow made the bars wide enough that the thing could reach through.
Yep.
I would steer clear. Just saying.
So he points the gun at James, dressed as a gorilla. The gorilla in the cage sees a, I guess, female gorilla in distress and knocks him the fuck out. Yeah. He probably would have killed him.
Yeah.
The strength of a gorilla would have
killed him immediately.
But he just knocked out.
He gets a fate worse than death, though.
Yes, because after he knocked out James Belushi, they take the costume off James, put it on
Gleason.
Beeks, threw him in the cage. How they got in the cage without the gorilla... Fine. Movie logic.
Yeah.
He's in there.
Well, no, the gorilla probably wouldn't do shit because I think they saw what they were doing with the gorilla.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're putting the female gorilla in with me? Fucking, I'll back up. Bring it on. Bring on my lady.
Now, gorillas are very smart animals.
Yes.
He wouldn't have realized that once you took the costume off and it was just the skin of a gorilla and put it on this human...
That's where you go movie logic.
Fair enough.
That's,
all right.
As I think we're going to start referring to, Shut Up, It's a Movie.
Yeah, Shut Up, It's a Movie. Threw him in the cage. No one seems to mind that there's a second gorilla now appearing.
Like you do.
Because I think they go, hey, wasn't there just one?
Later on, at the very end, when we
one
see
gorilla,
what
two
happens
gorilla,
to Gleason,
what does it
doesn't matter. And look, they're in love, and it's New Year. Let him do what he wants. I'm like,
and then the Beeks' eyes going,
yeah, and then they do show the one shot of clear what is the penetration shot, where his eyes just fucking bug wide. I'm like, there would be some screaming right about now.
Well, his mouth is gagged.
So all you hear is... You can still hear...
Not just monkey noises.
Damn right it's monkey noises.
So they have a fucking Deep Throat style underground meeting.
Don't say Deep Throat.
That's what it is.
Right after the gorilla sex, you say Deep Throat.
Whatever, man.
Hey, Jesus.
That's what it is.
Put
the briefcase over here. And again, you've met Beeks before.
Yeah, no one seems to question why he now sounds like a 50s gangster.
Why are you in the dark? We've met you. We know you.
That makes sense because he would be like, we're not going to talk. But when he starts talking like a 50s gangster, I would start questioning him like, hey, you're not Beeks.
Yeah. They slide the money over. So they use that money.
Yes.
The $45,000 that Ophelia has. I think Coleman threw some scratch in there.
He did, yeah.
And whatever.
They basically all gave their life savings.
Yeah, so it's just like, this better work. So the whole plan was, we're going to go to New York. We're going to go to the World Trade Center. We're going to
do basically the opposite of what the Dukes were doing.
Well,
we're actually going to do what the Dukes are doing, but they've fed the Dukes the opposite information.
So basically, the Dukes are going to do the opposite of what they're going to do.
So the Dukes are under the impression... I actually researched on exactly what they did, because I didn't understand exactly what was going on.
Well, they tried to... there's a scene of while they're going to New York on the train, he explains to Billy Ray the ins and outs of trading.
Yes, and hey, don't feel stupid because Eddie Murphy didn't know what the hell was going on.
Well, he's explaining this whole thing, and I'm
clue.
just like, I
Okay.
Whatever. I don't even think Dan Aykroyd knows what he's saying right now.
No, neither one really knew what they were doing, especially in the actual stock exchange scene. Literally, there is a point where Eddie Murphy just said, yeah, I didn't know what the hell was going on. I just read the script. I just did exactly what was in the script. I didn't know what we were doing.
Yeah.
So basically what was happening is they're trading in futures. Now, futures work in a way where, and I'm literally paraphrasing from what I read, so bear with me if it doesn't make sense. So the futures are basically like, when it gets to a certain point, like say it's like 142, right? Mm-hmm. We're gonna sell you in April, because what he yells later on is like 142 April 19th or whatever, right? So that means he's going to sell it to you
on that date
for 142, no matter what the price is at that point. So if the price is low, which it's under the impression it's going to be, then you're buying it at like 0.29. And you're eventually going to
you're going
to be getting like $1.49 for it later on for each share,
which is what the Dukes were doing. They were buying it low, and
the Dukes were doing the same thing because they were under the impression that the crop was going to be bad, so they were buying it high
driving the market
up, so that and then it would fluctuate later on when it became the biggest stock possible.
When they did it to the highest point that Aykroyd and Lewis and Billy Ray would find, that's when they started buying.
Yes.
And I don't know, like, obviously this looked like a realistic thing. Mm-hmm. Man.
Oh, it was definitely realistic.
Jesus, when those traders like, how's your ulcer? Oh, it's good today. How's your anxiety? That's great. These guys are like stressed and fucking just horrible shape. Because what they're doing, because when they start buying stuff, everyone
it's pandemonium.
It's pandemonium. People are writing out papers and handing them out, and it's fucking nuts.
They actually filmed it on the trading floor at the World Trade Center. And originally they were, because of the way the scheduling worked, they were planning on filming it on the weekend, but they had to try and do it on a weekday. That caused problems.
Yeah, because
when Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy walked in, it caused so much of a distraction that it literally halted $6 billion in trading. Because of them.
Because they walk in and they're like, holy fuck, is that Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy?
Yeah, it's like, that Saturday Night Live guys are right there. Like, what the fuck are we doing?
Because you're in New York City.
Yeah, like, they're going to be the names, right? So then that's when they switched it over to the weekend. And actually, a lot of the people that were in that were stockbrokers.
Yeah, because it's basically just like, you're going to get either actors who don't know what they're doing, or you can just get stock guys, pay them scale.
Yeah.
Per diem, all that stuff, and just have them do what you normally do on a Monday, boys.
Exactly.
Just crowd Eddie and Dan and be you.
Yeah.
And just throw papers around. So Dukes drive it up.
Yeah.
Then Lewis and Billy buy it high, and then it dives after, because everyone shuts up because the crop report comes out.
Yeah.
They explain what's going on, and then it just takes a nosedive.
Well, the Dukes figured it out before this happens.
But they couldn't get to their guy.
But they were trying to run to get to their guy.
Because their guy was in this pit.
First off, the guy collapses. And they tell him, like, get back in there.
And he's just like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
Now, couldn't they just get another guy?
No, well, you would think, but maybe not. I don't know how it works. Maybe, you would think you'd have 3 dudes. Like, if you're that rich, I'd have 3 dudes in there doing all my trading, but that's just me. But... So eventually they'd start running, trying to get to him, be like, oh, fuck, we see what's going on. Run. They don't make it.
So they buy high, then sell low, I guess. And then, because when it gets low, they buy again. No, they sell high. They sell high, and then they buy low.
They're selling it, they're selling it low.
At the highest point.
At the highest point, being like, we're selling it to you for this ridiculous amount of money. And for the futures, like I said. And then when the stock starts to plummet, everyone's trying to get rid of it, they're buying it at its lowest. So
when it goes back up...
Yeah, they're making a ridiculous amount of money, and they're still holding on to futures. So there are still a shit ton that is, like, literally all over them that, like, in April, they're going to make, like, 142 on something that's worth 29 cents. So they're making a shit ton.
So at the end of the day, the Dukes go broke.
Yes.
Because they owe $394 million.
To do futures, you have to buy on margin, which is essentially just credit. So they did it on credit, and they're like the biggest firm in the world. So, like, yeah, sure, you can have $300 million credit, no problem. But then they get fucked. And they literally was just like, well, you know how it goes. It's the end of the day.
We don't have the cash on us.
Well,
then we're going to take
everything you have.
We're going to take the club, the bank, everything. We're taking everything from you.
Yeah, and then one of them fucking starts having a heart attack and collapses.
And then he's just like, what about him?
Fuck him.
Fuck him. And then as he's being wheeled out, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
This whole nature versus you're stupid.
Yeah.
We're ruined.
They basically, so they ruined the fuck out of them.
And then Beaks kind of suffers